guys, I'm back. I just want to be able to come and talk to you guys. I saw a video that O'Shea Duke Jackson made, and he was talking about Tariq Nasheed commenting about what Umar Johnson, had to say about black men taking accountability for their part in how the men and women are so far apart, from each other. And Tariq Nasheed, I'm going to go over the video. So I'm going to play the video, and then I'll stop it, and then I think that's the way, I'm going to try to do it. Okay, so here we go.
The Daily Wrap-Up crew hosted Dr. Umar Johnson in New York City. And the main conversation that they had that I can really remember was that black men are responsible for black women's bad decisions. Now, what I'd like to do right now to get into the whole conversation is play a small clip of that, and then I'm going to come back.
Over here, I want to say this to us, though, because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for. Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. You understand me? Most of our children are raised by a single mother right now. And it has been that way for about 50 years. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down. Or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be your man. You ain't got to work or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back. I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black men, we got to be patient with our women because we created that personality. We created that, and then we want to act like we didn't play a role.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate. And what I'm saying is they don't have much to select one, so of course you're going to end up with a poor mate. And why is she going to end up with a poor mate? Because we as black men are not raising black boys to be the men that our women need. We are not. They out there killing themselves right now. What we doing about it? Unemployed black males, what we doing about it? Pants sagging, weed smoking, what we doing about it?
So in that clip.
So before we listen to O'Shea, I actually want to kind of tell a story time. So, like I told you, I grew up in the country. So when I dropped out of college to go join the Army, especially back then, I was in the early 90s, and going to the club, was the first thing, that you do, as your social. And I used to go like in my, I had like my sweatshirt, my jeans and sneakers. And, I had my hair, done nice and everything. But I was told that that wasn't good enough attire. That in order for me to be able to grab someone's, attention, that I needed to change my dress so that I would be more appealing, to such man. And I really remember, because I didn't know anything about how to do that, I didn't know. And so what I ended up evolving into, I actually evolved away from the kind of, what do they call them, thoughts, now, thoughts, the land, the country. I call it the country of Tatiana. So yeah, this is a culture that men have created, that black men, have created. I was there. I was heavily influenced by the men in my time to change my dress so that I could be more sexy and more appealing, showing more skin, doing more activities so that I could, catch the eye, of a dude. And when I listened to this, it just really kind of snatched me back, to that. And so we'll go ahead and listen to what O'Shea has to say, and I'll be back.
All over the internet, it's pretty much holding black men accountable for the fact that black women have access to a bad mate selection. In the end of that clip, Dr. Umar Johnson is being very adamant about the fact that we have black men out there suffering from unemployment, black men killing each other, and black men are actively doing nothing about it. And they are being apathetic, which is true. That is definitely true. Black men do not do enough to help other black men get into the economy or solve problems in the black community. And that part, I really believe that Dr. Umar Johnson is right, although I don't believe that black men are solely responsible for black women's bad selection. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of black men are coming up under these same women and they don't have the mentorship. And again, I understand that men have a different responsibility to society, but again, a lot of black men failure or black male failures, also they have been helped to fail. A lot of times by single parent households, whether it's men or women. But then Tariq Nasheed recently has...
So I'm going to interrupt him there because, yes, the black man is responsible. Because let us go back and look at the black minister who came into the community with these Christian lies and then out in the back screwing, somebody or even somebody else's wife. Okay? So they're preaching Jesus on Sunday, but then Monday through Saturday, you out in the street, doing all kinds of stuff. And look at it over time. Black men. I know you have physical abuse, you have emotional abuse, you got verbal abuse. Just me growing up in 1970s, I actually experienced, being able to see, some of that. And yeah, black man, yeah. And now black men are laughing because the church is comprised of mostly black women. How did that happen when the black man is the one that brought us the Christian word in the first place? So you can't even stand 10 toes down on your own beliefs, your own religious beliefs. Now you out here just doing all kinds of stuff. So you don't want to be held accountable for anything, I want Tariq Nasheed to be able to answer that question in a serious manner. I'm not saying that black men are responsible for 100% of it. We as black women, Eve, we got common sense. I had some then. I should have, stood on my principles and, lived my life, the way that I wanted to live instead of caving in, to peer pressure. And then I have to go and unlearn all that junk, that I learned so that I could come back, to a better place. And now, I'm confident, in the way that I present myself. So, yeah, we do have to take, our measure of responsibility too. But yeah, black man, y'all got a lot. And then I was reading some comments, which is really scary, to me. Well, we need power so we can be able to keep our women in line. No, what you need to do is be able to keep yourself in line. You keep yourself in line, you don't have to keep a woman in line. Okay? I mean, just the kind of thinking, y'all think just like white people, that we need to be subjugated under you. When y'all just as stupid as everybody else, that's walking around out here. And one thing, before I forget, I really actually appreciated, Umar Johnson. He said we. So a lot of people are criticizing him, saying that, he got babies and stuff out of wedlock and this, that, and the third. He said we. So he's including himself in having to acknowledge being part of this problem that we all are now trapped in. So I actually appreciated, that conversation, from Umar, as well. And so with O'Shea Duke Jackson, you can't be a leader if you don't take accountability. They love to talk about Harry Truman when he had the placard on his desk saying the buck stops here. You either a leader or you are a follower. But you're not a leader if you can't take accountability and responsibility for your shit. And I know that I'm never going to respect black men because I know the truth about y'all. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart every time I look at y'all now. It's like I know that there's just something about you that I really can't trust. And I actually feel that, about all men in general. But it just breaks my heart that I look at black men and I see the deficiency. I can't give my hand in marriage. Can I treat you like a human being? Yes. And I do that, to everybody. But do I want to marry you? Do I want to procreate with you? Do I want to build a business and a life with you? No. No. Because you're going to come at me with that male, B, and S, and it's going to be game over. Because if we can't do this together, then yeah, I don't want no parts of what you're trying to offer me, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm thinking about Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. A lot of people mad because she said that she goes 50-50 on the house bills, and I'm glad that people were able to see that from both sides too. She wants to feel like he can't be, like get out of my house. She don't want to hear that because she paying just as much as he paying. So it's their house. And you figure that out. Figure out how to tell how to get out of their house. Okay, so I actually could appreciate, that on some level. So yeah, men, it's a shame. I appreciate O'Shea Duke Jackson for acknowledging that there's some truth. It ain't just some truth. It is truth. What Umar Johnson, is talking about. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to make this video responding to O'Shea Duke Jackson is so that he can really go back and listen to Tariq Nasheed, and then I'm going to come back with the facts of why Tariq Nasheed is not going to be correct in what he's saying. So I'm going to continue the video.
It took about 3 weeks to respond. And in the stream that I heard, he doesn't call out Dr. Umar Johnson by name, but we know exactly what he's talking about. And I want to go ahead and play this small clip of Tariq Nasheed and what he's explaining, which is much different than what Dr. Umar's talking about, and then we're going to come back.
Stop it up. But listen, this is what I want to talk about today. There's this whole thing where black men are just to blame for everything. We've been hearing this conversation about
Albert, we are tracking this breaking news tonight about
conversation about are things black men's fault. We've heard some people say that if sisters act a certain way, that's black men's fault. If a nigga in Chicago acts a certain way that I don't know, somehow that's me and other black men's fault. It's our fault that some fool in Chicago somewhere is doing some grimy stuff. If a white cop shoots somebody, well, that's black men's fault for being so niggerish. We shouldn't promote niggatry. We promote it. And if we point out it's the white corporate structure where we shouldn't give them the material to promote, it's still black men's fault. Everything is a black man's fault. Everything is the black man's fault. We're responsible for the behavior of other people except us. Our own behavior. We're controlled. We're systematically powerless, but somehow we're just responsible for everything. Now, we saw with the whole Kiki thing, going back to that, people talk about the ratchetness that certain sectors of our society has, and they say that's our fault. We're making them women ratchet. It's our fault that they're ratchet. It's our fault that they're walking around with their cheeks jiggling. Okay, when we say, hey, we don't want you to walk around with your cheeks out. Hey, why don't you cover your cheeks up and be a mother? Oh, don't you say that you're trying to control. That sounds like patriarchy.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. That brings me back to what I was telling you about. Remember the controversy over the Freaknik video that's coming out? If you ever see that video, the men were out there with the women, and they were encouraging the women. This is the kind of atmosphere that was going on at that time. And if there were any, there were very few men that were out there saying, cover yourself up, walk up, right like a woman. Those were the times. And you go back and you look at it, for yourself. Tariq Nasheed was around during that time. I can't be that much older, than him. So, talking about clapping cheeks and this, that, and the third. Once you let rot into your apple bin and you don't do anything to take it out, that one rotten apple is going to spoil that whole bin of good apples. And so, again, black men, I didn't see it. Even in my, own family, I didn't see it. There was not a lot of admonishment, about it. Like with my cousins and uncles and things, like that. My grandmother and them, were outraged about it, but they were a different, generation. So the other thing that I want to address with the men, we're going to go and visit scripture in a bit, because I actually want to look at what Adam, said and how he reacted when he, as the leader, was posted up about what was going on. And the answer that he gave is pretty much the answer that men are doing today. And if y'all don't change that narrative, again, people, we're not going to make it. So the patriarchy. This is something that white men have started, and that in this society, and this level of colonialism, that we've been locked into. And I'm sure throughout the indigenous communities, men have, taken the lead. Like you go back and you look at, different cultures, there are men, who are basically in charge. But where we are today, we're in a white patriarchy that black men have now latched onto. And that comes with a level of power. It comes with position and power. And once you get a taste of that, child, look, you really gonna have to snatch power away from people. And so that's another reason why women are in trouble, because you're living around a bunch of men, number one, that won't take responsibility for themselves, and then they've been given all of this power that they don't want to share, with you. And they want to be able to take that power and be able to rule over you. Go down there. If you go and listen, I don't know if I'm going to do the whole video, but if I don't, I encourage you to, even if I do the whole video, I encourage you to listen to it again. And then I encourage you to go down in the comments and go and look at what them jokers in there saying. It's insane. People in there clapping Tariq Nasheed on the back, talking about he the same, he's the same person for men, to kind of listen and look up to. That is insanity. And I'm tired of it. There is no patriarchy. That is that's just like what race is. That's a social construct. There is no such thing as that. When you really boil it down, if you look at what Adam and Eve, have done, and then I'm really happy that this was brought, to me. If you look in the scripture, so when you had, you've got several women. You got the woman at the well who the Lord told a word, and she was able to go back into the village and go tell everybody, hey, y'all need to come on out here and come listen. He got a word, to give us. And you got the woman who was caught in adultery, and the men wanted to stone her. They was ready to take her out of here. And the Lord said, yeah, okay, well, if she sinned, which is wrong, then you're going to have to tell me who out here hasn't sinned. And then you the one that get to stone her to death. And see, they had to put down their rocks. They had to throw their rocks away, and they had to slink off into the night, because they know that they weren't any better in their behavior than she has been. And so who else do you have? You've got Martha and Mary. And when he raised Lazarus up from the dead, Martha and Mary No, I think it was Martha that was in there cooking and trying to get everything ready, to feed, the Lord. But her sister, I think her name was Mary, and I might have them twisted around, but she was sitting there listening to the word that the Lord had to tell her. And the sister came and complained and was like, well, I need her to help me. And he was like, you worried about, cooking and cleaning and, that has its place. But she's going to be the recipient because she was able to sit at the feet. She sat at the feet of the Lord and was able to get his word straight from his lips. She didn't have to hear it from no dude. She was right there listening with him, with everybody else, of what his instructions was and what he had to say. And then you have the women who saw the tomb. They went to go and attend to his body, and they saw that the tomb had been, open. They were the first ones, and I'm trying to think. I want to say it was Mary Magdalene that was the first one to actually talk to Jesus, and he told her to go and tell the rest of the disciples. So women have a role, and it is a substantial role, and so men love to ignore that. They love, and it has, like I said, a lot to do, with power. When power gets into your bloodstream, when you get some of it, it actually has the ability to change your whole character. Something that is invisible. You can't put your hand on power. You can't sleep with it at night. You can't drink it. You can't eat it. But it is something. It's like a virus, and it gets inside of you. You get some of it, and it can change you from night to day, or day to night, from being into the light and then turn you straight into the darkness. That's what happened to Lucifer. That is how he got kicked out of the kingdom. And so I want you guys to really, really just sit with yourselves. Stop trying to be the external. We've had external factors that have affected our ability to be able to sustain, the community. But there's a lot of it that has come straight out of us. And if we don't sit down and actually start telling ourselves and each other the truth, look, man, you go in Revelation, I want to say it's in Revelation 7, there are 2 tribes that aren't in there. I want to say, I looked it up yesterday, it's Ephraim and Dan. They ain't in there. Okay? Y'all take him for a joke. The Lord is a king, and he is not playing. There's no man that has been created that's going to tell him how to run his kingdom, and that his word is not his word. That's why I can't listen to, black men anymore that want to sit up and tell me, about what's in the Bible. I just cannot. My ears just start shutting down, and I'm like, yeah, I can't listen to this. Because y'all scare me to death. I mean, you're taking this word and you're trying to use it in a way of power that's not, you don't have the authority to do that. And it's killed our community. So I'm to the point where I don't really want to hear what men have to say about women anymore. If they're not willing to take responsibility for the B and the S that they have subjugated the rest of us to. So what else do I have here? I talked about religion, talked about black women in the church, and so this is the other thing that the mess that black men have brought us through Christianity. I mean, you got a church full of black women that will sit there and defend a child molester and a pedophile like Eddie Long, and they think they're actually gonna go sit up somewhere with the Lord. They really believe that helping Eddie Long is going to benefit them somehow to be able to be around the Lord. That is the kind of lunacy that's in our community. So y'all sit up and laugh at Trump and his, supporters. Black people are just as stupid. I'm telling you, sometimes it really kind of scares me to death, if I allow myself to really sit down and think about it. But, I am on a mission to just try and be a human being. So far, that's been working out for me, and that's the track that I'm focused on staying on. So I talked about capitalism. That's part of that power complex. Men was making more than women. Now the things are shifting, and now you got CNN sitting up talking about, oh well, they play video games all day, and they don't know whether they should go and talk to a woman, and oh this, that, and the third. Oh, they need help. No, they need Jesus. We all do, but what they need is to be a human being. I mean, the system as it stands now still benefits men. So I'm not going to sit up and cry for a man because you don't know how to go up and get a job, or you can't figure out, what you want to do. Or, you have to figure out life just like everybody else. And they were saying, I think in the last CNN video that I put up, that the people that come out of privilege, so you say like middle class, people who went to high school, maybe did some college, but then, kind of dropped out, and then now they don't know, what they want to do because they don't want to go to McDonald's, and go and get a job, but you didn't stay in school, to be able to qualify, for a higher paying job. So it's like we all have to take responsibility, for our decisions. And men are going to have to do that too. I mean, the world is changing. I'm doing everything I can to change it. I'm doing everything I can to get black people out of Christianity and out of religion at large. And I'm doing everything I can to wake women up so that we can start defending ourselves against these nutty ass men that we have to, deal with. They are going to try and kill us. Okay? And we need to stick together. I am not going to be walking around on no leash with no man. That no, sir. No, sir. They have no authorization to, as I've been saying, time and time again, to be in our uteruses. I'm not in your scrotum. I'm not in your in your urethra. I'm not in your spongy tissue. So you need to get, I'm not in your testes, so you need to get out of my uterus. What else do I have? Yeah, I got Tariq is crying about everything is the black man's fault. See, nobody said that. A lot of it is. That is true. Y'all have some weight that you're going to need to deal with. I mean, the stuff and the mess that y'all got going on now, it's even extra. Even more extra. I mean, it's not enough that the woman got to deal with you, having, a woman over here, and a woman over here, and then 5 kids over here, and 10 kids over here. Now she got to deal with you dealing drugs, got to deal with you out here shooting up other people, for pieces and scraps of paper. You would have to deal with even more, just blatant disrespect than just the regular, normal, respect that I looked at, growing up. Just crazy. So I have here that when you have the world and then you have God. So we're going to go back to that mathematical, or no, this would probably be a chemical. This would be a chemical equation. So I have the world and then plus God equals oil and water. So those two things are opposed to each other. Like if you're making a vinaigrette and you put some red wine vinegar and then you put some olive oil and shake it up. So for a time, it would seem that they would have come together. But they really haven't. Because if you let that container sit there long enough, they're going to separate, from each other. And the oil is going to be all in one area of the jar, and the vinegar is going to be intact in another area, of the jar. They are completely separate from each other. And there's nothing you're going to do to be able to change that. That's just the way it is. So as we who have been in the world, now we understand things that, like when I went into the Army, I didn't understand because I wasn't living, that kind of lifestyle. But when you decide that you actually want to go and you live in the Word, of God, then you'll be able to understand why people do the things that they do and how to correct, your behavior, because you were taught things that were against what you're now learning that you're supposed to be doing. And I hope that made, sense, to somebody. But I just wanted to put that since I had it in my notes. Yeah, and I said, put on clothes, sis. That's Tariq Nasheed. And I have my testimony in the 80s and Freaknik. And I was looking at, and then I was thinking about that movie, School Days. So that was one of Spike Lee's early movies. So if you go in and you look at School Days, right? This was a thing about college life, and they really focused on fraternities and sororities. So Spike Lee was this little runt that was trying to pledge in a fraternity, and they had this the I guess they call him the dean of pledges. He was the head dude. His name was Big Brother Almighty. Oh my goodness, that dude, he's a good actor. I saw him on something recently, but I digress. Anyway, so the Big Brother Almighty was dating a girl, and the girl was played by Tisha Campbell. So he wanted to get rid of her, but he didn't want to just break up with her. So what he did was he told her that he told her to go in there and go and sleep with Spike Lee. And then she did it. So then when they finished and they came out, he was like, you mean to tell me you actually had sex with him? And she was like, yeah, you told me to. And he said, well, and that's when he broke up with her. Because he made her feel stupid because she did what he told her to do. So he took it and twisted it back around on her. Man, I never forgot that. Oh, wow. That was that was insanity. And that's the kind of mess that black men have been about. Okay? Look. Again, you're either going to take responsibility or nothing. Well, it's not nothing that's going to change. It's going to continue to get worse. So the stuff that y'all think that y'all complaining about now, O'Shea Duke Jackson, child, it's not going to get any better. And you in the whole black space, you're one of the first people who should be able to really take what I'm saying and examine it and hold it up to the light and actually see, if it actually has any, truth to it. So okay, what do I have here? I have School Days, and I have male sex abuse. That's what he did to the girlfriend. And then I talk about the crack epidemic. Oh, that was a mess. I lived during that time. Yeah, that was crazy. And a lot of it came from black men. And who are the drug dealers, that's out there? Black men. You don't have a whole lot of black women out there, dealing drugs and killing their own folks. I remember that movie, New Jack City, and the ending. It really makes a lot of sense, to me, looking at it, from all these, years later. I encourage y'all to go back and look at that movie again. It was actually really good. It was one of my favorite movies. And then, yeah, so I talked about the drug trade, and that's run by men. It's run by men. And you taught your sons to worship, money. And the rot, if you don't cut that rot out, then it's just not going to do anything but take over and make everything else, rotten. In nursing, they teach us that before the surgeon will amputate, a patient in certain, situations, they actually have to wait until the necrotic tissue that's dying is such to the point where there's a line that forms around the dead skin and then the good skin. And that is called the line of demarcation. And that's where they go and chop it off, because then they'll know where the necrotic tissue, has stopped. And that's what we're going to have to do. If we don't cut it off at the line of demarcation, they're going to have to chop your whole leg off. So instead of it being your ankle, it'll get you to the knee. And then instead of it being your knee, then it'll be all the way up to your hip. You won't have nothing. Crazy. So I'm gonna go to Genesis 3, I think it is. Genesis 3. I had it on my other phone. I didn't know I was going to be using this one. Genesis 3. KJV. All right. So let us see where he is talking to Adam. And so we're going to start at 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool air of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called to Adam and said, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou should not eat? And the man said, the woman. Oh, look. So this is what this joker said. Okay, this is why we had to go through all that. And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. See, he didn't even answer the question. The question was that I told you. Did you eat of the tree that I told you? Not that I told her that y'all should eat. That I told you that you weren't supposed to eat from. And then what does he do? He turned around and go blame her. And then he actually really low-key blamed the Lord, too. He's like, well, you gave it to me. The woman that you gave me, she gave it to me, so yeah, I ate it. That is not the answer. If you were on a test and you circle that as the answer, you get that one wrong, child. And that's what men have done. And if you continue to read on through this, all three of them, every party that had something to do with that tree got punished. Even Adam. And see, they love to go blind when it comes to that. It really, and the suffering that we're all under because Adam couldn't be a leader. Because he couldn't knock that fruit out of her hand and be like, okay, girl, we got to go to the Lord because now we got a problem. You done messed up everything. Let us go and find out how to solve this problem. But instead of him doing that, he went and ate of it with her. It's like, when the girl used to get, the stigma of being pregnant. The girl would be the one to get the stigma. And the dude wouldn't. But she couldn't have got pregnant by herself. But this is the way that we have been trained to think in this society. And it's killing us, man. So, I'll put the one for Revelation 7 down there. Because, I already told you that there are two of them that aren't there. So that was other scripture that I was talking about. But, black men have destroyed their own bloodline. That's what that means when you go and look in Revelation 7 and you don't see Dan and Ephraim. They killed off their bloodline, being stupid. And so I really encourage women out there to just sit with what I'm talking about and then read for yourself, ask, for discernment and understanding, and really start teaching this to your boys. Y'all can't let them get out of their house and go out into the world not understanding what I'm trying to tell you, or else they're just going to be, you're sending them out into an environment and you haven't equipped them to be able to protect themselves. So if we can do any change, it's going to have to start now. And again, it's going to have to be the women, that's going to do it. That's another thing I actually appreciated Umar, for. He was like, yeah. I mean, you're talking about since, like he said, the mass incarceration, of black men. Women have had to do this. And then black men want respect. I don't have any. I got human respect to give you. But that's it, man. I'm not doing it, because you got something. You got testes and scrotum and, elongated urethra. I'm not doing that with you today. So I think that's what I wanted to say. I really hope that this makes sense, to somebody out there. I hope that O'Shea Duke Jackson listens to this and really pulls his head out of his ass, because he's a capitalist. That's why he, don't like Democrats and talk about Republicans. The political systems are just as fake and non-productive as religion. And until people understand that, you got a bunch of con men up there, con men and women, that's telling you lies. They'll get on TV. Anybody that will sit up and get on national TV and lie to you and everybody, that's somebody that really does need to be committed. They need to be in an institution, and they actually get to have power to influence our laws. And and I'm going to tell y'all something else, and I'm going to get off here because I'm tired. If Donald Trump is reelected into this country and they don't do something to put him in jail, I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm not going to lose no sleep. I'm not going to be up here mad. I ain't losing a day of my life, because this is what you guys are signing up for. They're already putting it in the mix that there could be an opportunity for him to be reelected and not have to go to jail. And I don't know what world that is. That's not the world that I was told that I was in. That is something else. That is another world. Okay? And I'm going to need somebody out there to wake up. So I hope, again, that this makes sense. I hope I'm able to add something, to the discourse and to the conversation. We in trouble.